Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this, and welcome to the news. These are important articles I read every once in a while to inform you of the situation that this country is in. It's dire. We're losing it. The economy's kaput. The money's not worth the paper it's on. They just dropped another half point or something, so the stock market illusionally went up 240 some odd points, and now that's supposed to be good. Too bad the yippies on Wall Street don't realize that that's only worth take the 10,000 off of that, and it's probably closer to 2006 as far as the points on there. Anyways, I'm going to read to you today about the Communist Manifesto. Are Americans practicing communism? These are the 10 planks that Karl Marx came up with in 1848 to show how far a country is being transformed into communism. He used them as a judgmental type of test. Another thing to remember, Karl Marx, in creating a Communist Manifesto, designed these pranks as a test to determine whether a society has become communist or not. If they are all in effect and enforced, then the people are practicing communist. The 10 planks stated in the Communist Manifesto and some of the American counterparts are: 1. The abolition of private property and the application of all rents of land to public purposes, state parks, and other things, property taxes. Americans do these with actions such as the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, 1868, and various zoning, school, and property taxes. Also, the Bureau of Land Management zoning laws are the first step to government property ownership. I was out in Nevada. I know how they do that. Most of the desert is owned by the military because the Bureau of Land Management gave it up to them. But that's another story. Number 2, a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Isn't that familiar to us all? Americans know this misapplication of the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, 1913, the Social Security Act of 1936, the Joint House Resolution of 192 of 1933, and various state income taxes. We call it paying your fair share. I call it highway robbery. A citizen should not pay taxes. That was written for corporates only. If you don't believe it, just do your homework. Otherwise, realize we're going into communism right now. 3. The abolition of all rights of inheritance. Americans call it the federal and state estate tax, 1916, or reform probate laws, and limited inheritance via arbitrary inheritance tax status. Confiscation of property, number 4, is confiscation of property of all immigrants and rebels. Americans call it government seizures, tax liens, public law 99-570, 1986, executive order 11490, section 1205 and 2002, which gives private land to the Department of Urban Development. The imprisonment of terrorists and those who speak out or write against the government, 1997, crime terrorist bill. Now, you think they needed the Patriot Act and all the other garbage bills we had since these? No, these bills absolutely demolish our rights anyways, and now they're going to go on. Okay, or the IRS confiscation of property without due process. Asset forfeiture laws are used by the DEA, the IRS, the ATF, etc. Yes, they just go out and just confiscate your property at the whim of their thinking. I know these monsters. There's plenty of cases out there that you can go and look up. Do your homework. 5. The centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of national banks with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Americans call it the Federal Reserve, which is a privately owned credit debt system allowed by the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. People were hoodwinked back then. All local banks are members of some Fed system and are regulated by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or the FDIC, another privately owned corporation. The Federal Reserve Bank issues fiat paper money, monopoly money, and practice economically destructive fractional reserve banking. In other words, they can take $1,000. They can take 900 of that and loan it out to someone else of your money, and so on and so forth. It's dangerous practices. Number 6, the centralization of the means of communications and transportation in the hands of the state. Americans call it the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, the Department of Transportation, DOT, mandated through the ICC Act of 1887, Commissions Act of 1934, the Interstate Commerce Commission established in 1938, the Federal Aviation Administration, the Federal Communications Commission, and Executive Orders 11-490 and 10-999, as well as state-mandated driver's license and Department of Transportation regulations. Number 7, the extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state and bringing into cultivation of wastelands and the improvement of soil generally in accordance with the common plan. Americans call it corporate capacity. The Desert Entry Act and the Department of Agriculture thus read controlled or stabilized or subsidized rather than owned. This is easily seen in these as well as the Department of Commerce and Labor, Department of Interior, the Environmental Protection Agency, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Reclamations, Bureau of Mines, National Park Services, and the IRS control of business through corporate regulations. Number 8, equal liability of all to labor, established of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Americans call it minimum wage and slave labor, like dealing with our most favored nation trade partner, therefore Communist China. We see it in practice via Social Security Administration and the Department of Labor. The national debt and the inflation caused by the communal banks has caused the need for a two-income family. Women in the workplace since 1920s, the 19th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 it is, the assorted socialist unions, affirmative action, the Federal Public Works Program, and of course, Executive Order 11,000. Number 9, combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of population over the country. Americans call it the Planning Reorganization Act of 1949, zoning, Title 17, 1910 through 1990, and super corporate farms, as well as Executive Order 11647 and 11731, 10 regions, and Public Law 89-136. These provide for forced relocations and forced sterilization programs, like in China. And they've been doing this in the 40s. There's old video films that used to show, oh, your son and daughter, your son's a criminal, and some of them are weak-minded, and so the daughter needs to be sterilized. Bull. Number 10, free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production. Americans are being taxed to support what we call public schools, but are actually government forced tax funded schools. Even private schools are government regulated. The purpose is to train the young to work for the communal debt system or work in the factories. We also call it the Department of Education. I call it the Department of De-Education. They dumb down the kids. You go take an 18 whatever test, and a college student can hardly pass this school test. It's like high school test. It's just terrible. The purpose is to train the young to work in communal debt system. Also call it the Department of Education, the NEA, the outcome-based education. These are used so that all children can be indoctrinated and inculcated with the government propaganda, like majority rules and pay your fair share. Where are the words fair share in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? I want them to show me the law for the taxes, too. Anyways, the philosophical concept of fair share comes from the communist maximum, for each according to their ability, to each according to their need. This concept is pure socialism, and I know Hillary can't wait to get in there and then make you take health care down your throat, you need it or not. And this is just evilness. It's pure socialism. America was made the greatest society by its private initiative, worth ethics, teaching ourselves and others how to fish, to be self-sufficient and produce plenty of extra commodities. So if so desired, could be shared with others who might be needy. Americans have always voluntarily been the most generous and charitable society on the planet. That, my friends, is why it makes me mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm telling you right now, this has got to go, and it's got to go now. So until next time, be good or be good at it.